Do you remember we were talking about the leadership in the video we saw on Randy Posh? Do you remember one of the things he said, the key to success? He said, have great parents. You don't get to choose that, right? He said, I'll tell you, the best thing in the world is to have great parents. And I've learned a lot over the years of who I am and who you are is because of who your parents are. And a lot of influence that you had from parents. And so he's been my biggest coach. There's an inside joke. There's a person that he doesn't remember names. So every time he meets someone, he calls them, hey, coach, how you doing? And they're familiar. He's embracing me. So that's a little inside joke there. But without any further introduction, I want to introduce BillCochran to you.
Thanks, Scott. I want to establish something right off to make sure nobody gets confused. I am not a professional speaker. I did not take a class at Wofford, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm going to be okay. How many of you are familiar with Andy Rooney? Do you know Andy Rooney? Anybody? Oh, okay, I got a couple. Andy Rooney was a columnist, and he was a prolific writer, but he was famous for the last 2 minutes of 60 Minutes. All of you know the 60-minute program on Sunday night. And he spent that 2 minutes just rambling about different things. He talked about hats or cigars or whatever it was, talked about a lot of things about life. And he established a list of things, and it was entitled, I've Learned. And I read this, and when I was getting ready to come down here, one of the things he said, I've learned that the best classroom is at the feet of an elderly person. That's me. Okay? And there's a lot of wisdom in that. But what I want to do, I want to kind of loosen things up between us. Everybody's sitting there looking, I'm looking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give somebody an opportunity to win $20. Anybody want to win $20?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're not eligible, Scott. You're going to tell me what year I was born, since we're talking about elderly. I'm going to give you some facts. You can't use your phone, can't use any electronic device. You get one stab at it, okay? And I will call on you, and the first one that gets it gets $20. I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 things and events that happened in the year I was born. The first one is LaGuardia Airport in New York City was opened. Batman comics hit the street. The Superman comic strip hit the newspaper. Gone with the Wind premiered in Atlanta, Georgia. What year was it?
1939.
Come on, Billy. Great. I have 20. Oh, wait a minute. Hell, I didn't bring my wallet. I'm sorry. No, come here. Come here. That was very good. I really didn't think anybody would get it. There you go. No, because I had one I had one that everybody would have gotten it, and if he hadn't have gotten it, it would have been beginning of World War II, and all of y'all would have gotten it then. So, with that, let me kind of get started, and I want to start when I began my career in Mobile, Alabama in 1962. I went to work for GMAC, and if you don't know what that is, that was a financial institution division of General Motors which provided funding for dealers to buy their cars from the factory and have inventory, and also for dealer loans and to provide retail financing for them and the money. So you better know it by now because it's all over. It is called Ally Bank, and all of you know probably what Ally Bank is. So that's where I started. Interesting fact, my starting salary was $400 a month. How many would work today for $400 a month? Okay, probably nobody. But that wasn't a bad salary in that time. In fact, I thought it was pretty good. I even had a company car, which made it much better. But to put $400 a month in perspective, let me tell you a few facts then. Gasoline in 1962 was 20 cents a gallon. A new home, average home cost $15,000. An average car cost $2,500. A fast food hamburger was 25 cents. Going to the movie was 10 cents. So you see, things are equal, but what happened is, the biggest kicker was, in 1962, only 20% of your salary went to federal, state, local income taxes. And now, many people, well, some people don't pay anything, but most people pay 25, 30, 35, 40, some people 50, 60%. So $400 a month, it worked for us. So I started with GMAC and outside collections, and you probably heard Scott say that. He did that at one time too. Outside collections taught me an awful lot, and it also taught me one thing real quick, that I never wanted to be in the predicament that those people had put themselves in by buying things they couldn't afford. I had a lot of interesting things happen when I was outside collections. One thing, it taught me to negotiate. It told me when to push and when to back off. I encountered quite a few individuals that were very interesting, and if we go to lunch, I'll share a bunch of stories with you, but I'm not going to dwell on it. But one of them, I don't want to say the privilege, but I had the opportunity and I had to step up. I repossessed a car from an outfielder for the New York Mets. I won't say his name because he's still living, and I don't want him to come after me. I was there about 4 years in the field working out, and I got my first promotion. I went into inside collections, and I was in charge of a small section, 3 or 4 people. And I was feeling good about being promoted and felt like I knew a lot. And I was working in this section. I had a lady working, her desk was right next to me, and she was a credit clerk, as we called them then. And this is for all the females here. Let me tell you what the title of that position I went into was called. We were called Credit Man. Can you imagine getting away with a title like that today? But no women were promoted to this position. Only men were promoted to it. So I go in, and I've been there a couple weeks, and I can't remember whether I asked this person, whose name was Nancy Sanderson, and that's a very important name to me. I either asked her or told her to do something. And I remember like it was yesterday, she said, "Why do I have to do it that way?" And I said, "Because I said so." I couldn't. Have you ever started saying something, words spill out, you know you've made a big mistake, you can't pull them back in. But I did say it. So she didn't do anything, but she scooted her chair back, slid it over next to mine, got right next to me, and she said, "Listen, buddy, I've been here 10 years. I know much more than you do about this business right now. I can do one or two things. I can make you or I can break you. That's your choice." She slid back over. Man, I went in shock. She put me in my place, and rightfully so. So when I got my thoughts gathered, I went over to her and I said, "Nancy, you're right. I was totally out of line, and I'm asking you to help me because I want to progress." And she said, "I will." Every step I've made from then on, as I got promoted, as I went on through, we went to 7 different branches, had 7 moves and everything. Every time I got promoted, who did I call? I called Nancy, and I thanked her for waking me up. I came in kind of cocky and all of these things, but here's what I learned, and I've told my daughter and my son and other friends and younger people. When you get promoted, that first day on the job of your promotion, you are not one bit smarter than you were the day before at that other position. And I guess I thought I was smarter that first day. But I used that lesson throughout all of my career. What I want to do is, I'm not going to tell you all of these things, but I've got 3 big instances in my 30-year career with GMAC that I learned an awful lot, and I've retained it all these times and passed it on. My first supervisory position was in Pensacola, Florida. And I had the good fortune of working under a person named Jack Elsey. And Jack he taught me so much in financial analysis of dealer statements. He taught me everything I needed to know to go forward. But the greatest thing he taught me was how to manage. And when you work for Jack Elsey, you didn't work for Jack Elsey. You worked with Jack Elsey. If you were out in any setting or social setting or anything else, you would be introduced as, "This is BillCochran," and he and I worked together. If Helen was out in a social situation with his wife or anything, it would be the same way. she would say, "This is Helen, and her husband works with Jack." There's a big difference in working with than working for. And he taught me that all of us work for GMAC. That's our boss. He was just a management instrument to get the job done. So remember this when any environment you go into. You work with people. You don't work for people. You don't work people. It's a very, very important lesson. In 1973, we were transferred to Jacksonville, Florida, and I give you that date because it's very important. In October of 1973, an oil embargo was placed on the United States of America. Everything stopped. Gas lines were 2-3 hours long, and you could only get 5 gallons if you were lucky. People panicked. Automobile dealers were sitting lots full of cars that they couldn't sell. They were gas guzzlers. People were trading in Cadillacs for Volkswagens just to get the mileage. They were scared to death. A lot of people panicked. But I had one dealer that was very, very smart. And what he did is he bought every single big gas guzzler automobile he could buy. Cadillacs were the best. And he leased a warehouse to put them all in. And he put them in this warehouse and he waited. What he did was he had the foresight to know that this was not going to last forever. Okay? He didn't know how long it was last, but what was he willing to do? He was willing to put everything on the line. He was willing to take a risk. He wasn't afraid to take a risk, and it paid off, and he made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the lesson is when you see this opportunity, be smart enough to analyze it, and don't be afraid to take a risk to make it happen. Whether you're going to be an entrepreneur, a business, corporation, or whatever you're going to be. It's just seize every opportunity, and don't be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, guess what? You're going to fail, because you're not going to do things that you need to do to go forward. In 1987, we were transferred to Charleston, South Carolina. I'd been in the branch, and that as a branch manager there, for 5 days. And a dealer came in to meet me, which I thought was really good. I had about 45 dealers at the time. Eventually I would get around to seeing him, but he came to see me. And so he came into the office and we sat down and we chit-chatted, family, how you doing, all of this stuff. And to this day I'll never forget this lesson. He leaned forward and on my desk, he reached in his top pocket and he pulled out an ad machine tape. The ad machine tape I looked at and totaled around $250,000, which in '87 was a tremendous amount of money. And I said, "What's this?" He said, "That is how much money I owe GMAC that I can't pay, and I don't have the cars to back it. I've sold them without paying them off." I really thought it was a joke. I thought it was just a punk that they were going to do on me, but it was real. And I asked him a question. I said, "Look, I know this didn't happen overnight. This has happened over a period of time that you have sold cars and hadn't paid them off. Why didn't you bring it to the attention of the previous manager?" And here probably was the biggest compliment of my life, even though in a sad situation, that he said, "I heard when they announced that you were coming, I heard that you were fair. And I figured the only chance I had to save my dealership and get out of this thing without losing everything I had was wait till you come." That certainly validated that the way I conducted myself over all these years, and I'll give you my little philosophies in a minute of how to handle it, but it validated all the years that I had worked real hard to do the things and the right things for people. And when you can get to that reputation, it's good. Let me tell you what happened. He said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "The first thing I'm going to do is bring 2 people in. I'm going to send them to your dealership. I'm going to take all the keys to the cars, to the buildings. I'm going to take care of the mail. We're going to operate the dealership." And he said, "If you will give me time, I will work with you, and we'll get through this, and there won't be any loss to GMAC. Not $250,000. So we did. We took it over. We ran it. Long story short, we found a buyer. He got out of it. He got his money back. The buyer paid it off, and we saved the loss. But it all stemmed from having a reputation of being fair and honest with people. And if you do that, you'll find the same success that I did. Throughout my management time in every branch I went to, I never looked at the personnel files of the people who were in that office. And some of the offices, I had 75 people. Every person had a personnel file. It goes with you everywhere you go from the start. All the good things you did, the bad things you did, everything else. But I knew a lot of people and managers before I got to that position. They'd come in, they'd be a couple of days, they would look at the files and everything else. I never did that because I did not want to find out about these people. I didn't want to know what other people thought of them. I didn't want to know what gossip was there. I didn't know whether they'd had a run-in with somebody which affected their performance. So I would wait 2 months. And I spent that time learning the individuals, talking, listening, looking at their work, watching their performance before I ever did. What I want to do, I wanted to form my own opinion of every employee in this branch and not take someone else's opinion and taint my mind with what they thought. Now, I really found out later on that 80% of whatever they thought and was in the file, I came to the same conclusion. But what about the 20% that I didn't come to that conclusion? And I'm glad to say I was able to nurture some of those people, and they went on to success and succeeded. But they just needed that opportunity, and by my method of operation, they had that opportunity because they got to start fresh with a new person. After I retired, and by the way, I retired when I was 53 years old, my first time. I had just announced my retirement, and I got a call from a dealer friend of mine, and he said, "You're too young to retire." And I said, "I am too young to retire. I'm not too tired to retire. So I'm going to retire." And he said, "Well, I want you to go to work for me. I need some help." And I said, "Absolutely not. I need a little R&R." So we talked for 8 months, once a month, and finally I decided to go to work for him. I'd been in the corporate world 30 years. Now I had an opportunity to see an entrepreneur I might say a great entrepreneur at work. So I went to work for this guy. At the time he had two automobile franchises, and they weren't bad, Mercedes and Infiniti. And he said, "Bill, I need some help. I need your expertise in financing in that." So I was able to go to him, and I was able to go to banks and other financial institutions and arrange funds we needed for inventory. Whatever we needed to do, I was able to do that just because of my experience being on the other side. I also was real good at cost cutting, saving money, not spending money fruitlessly. He used to tell people that after we got to a certain point, he said, "Bill," and he would do this in meetings, and I'm still on the advisory board and that, and he would say, "Bill taught us one thing when he came here, and it just probably saved us from an expense standpoint. He taught every employee how to use both sides of the toilet paper and not get your hands dirty." So I was pretty good at controlling costs. But anyway, I learned a tremendous amount of entrepreneurship. I learned what it was when an individual lays everything they have on the line to get his business going. Mortgages, house, mortgage, everything. They're the risk takers of the world. It's not the people in the corporate world. They are the risk takers. They seize the opportunity like the dealer did. But I learned a great deal. I had an opportunity to do things that I never did before. I built a couple of dealership facilities for him. But he started out, and I'm just going to tell you, and this guy did not come from money. Everything he did, he earned, which is kind of unusual nowadays, but he earned every single bit of it to get where he is today. He now has Mercedes, Infiniti, Land Rover, Porsche, Smart, Maybach, Sprinter, Cadillac, Buick, GMC, Maserati, and he was just announced last week the Rolls-Royce dealer in Charleston, South Carolina. Okay? It doesn't get any better than that. But he got to this position because I watched him so many times. I mean, just sweat it out, because everything, if things went bad, I used to tell employees they'd be upset because they had these things, and later on he had an airplane and a boat and all this, and they would say something. I'd say, let me ask you something. If we close this dealership tomorrow, what would you do? I'd get another job. If he lost everything and closed this dealership, he doesn't get a job. He's lost everything. So risk-taking is so important in that, but you have to be smart. So it was a great career with those two. I got both worlds. But here's what I want to pass on to you from all of this. Have passion for your job. I worked for Baker Motor Company, Tommy Baker. He was the most passionate person about his business of anybody I've ever been around in my life. Outwork everybody. You're going to run into a lot of people that are smarter than you, but you should never let anyone outwork you. That, to me, that's a sin. Josh, football field, right? If they outwork you, guess what you're going to be doing? Sitting on the bench. There you go. And it's the same thing in business. If you let somebody outwork you, they're going to get ahead. I guarantee you. You might think you're smarter, or you might be smarter than them, but if they outwork you, you're not going to succeed in that. Respect people. Respect people. Be honest with people. It's a big difference. Be fair with people. Help people to succeed. Anytime you can help people to succeed, you've done a great job. I always felt that someone didn't make it in the organization that I had failed. I didn't think it was their fault. We hadn't trained them right. We hadn't done something right. And I took that to heart because I wanted the people to succeed. And when they did succeed, your chest swells. Always, always, always do the right thing. It's not easy sometimes. But Peter Drucker, he said, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right thing. And there's a big difference. There'll be a lot of times in your life it'll be a lot easier not to do the right thing. Don't fall into it. Don't be afraid to fail. If you are, you will definitely fail. And here's my biggest kicker. Be on time. Be on time. People that are habitually late, they don't respect the individual they're meeting. They don't respect anybody. They think that it's my time. I can come and go as I please. You can wait on me. In my entire career, I learned an awful lot of people about how punctual they were. Told me an awful lot of them, okay? One, if they're always late, I guarantee you I can't depend on you, so it's going to affect your career, okay? I grew up on Lombardi time. How many people know who Vince Lombardi is? Vince Lombardi was the greatest Packer coach, Green Bay Packer coach that they ever had. And he was also a motivational speaker. GM purchased many of his motivational speeches and everything else we used. But he was a stickler for time. So everybody was on Lombardi time. My first branch manager was on Lombardi time. How I learned it, we had an 8 o'clock meeting. I got there at 5 till, and he got all over me because I was late, 10 minutes late. Lombardi time was you show up 15 minutes early for any meeting, any event, or anything. That allows you time for a lot of things. So people, and I know it's hard. I've been around the campus some, and I see people coming in late to a lot of things. It's disrespectful. I don't care how you look at it. That's exactly what it is. Have the respect. Plan enough that something goes wrong, that you will you're able to still get there on time. So the disrespect. Now I'm going to give you my grandfather's advice. Do not become a slave to debt. Okay? Because when you do, the debt owns you, and you're going to struggle all your life. And how do you do that? You establish the difference between need and want. All of us have a lot of wants. There are certain things we need, food, water, and all of these things. Take care of the needs, and then as you grow and grow and you build on your wealth and all of this, then you can get the wants you want and all of this thing. But don't go get all the wants first, because eventually you won't be able to get the needs. So please do that. That's something you can carry with us. Now I want to ask you something, and I'm running out of time. It's Scott told me the best time, what you should do is speak for 18 minutes, and I'm already over, but I'm going to finish it up. I want to ask you to tell me your definition of success. Anybody, what's your definition of success? Anybody? Got to have an idea. Yes?
Accomplishing a goal you set out originally with the standards and values of the way you wanted to go about doing it as well.
Good, good. Anybody else? How are you going to get there if you don't know what you want? How are you going to know when you got there if you don't have an idea? Anybody? Okay, I'll take you off the hook. There are many definitions of success. It all boils down to the individual. And I'm going to tell you, you can be successful in anything. You can have a high school education and be successful. You can do a lot of things and be successful. You don't have to be a CEO or anything like that. So the success comes when you are satisfied with what you've done and what you've earned, and you consider yourself successful. I always thought I was success. I mean, I was a success. I really did. But about 6 months ago, I received a letter. And if you'll indulge me, I want to read this. And I'm going to tell you right off, I may get emotional. And if I do, I'll just stop a minute and finish, because I'm going to finish this thing. This meant an awful lot to me, and it absolutely capped off my whole feeling of that I had become successful. You ready? I'll get teary-eyed, but it's okay. It's entitled, Hey Dad. Hey Dad, how was work? Want to throw the ball? You sit in your chair, I'll sit here on the floor, and let's see if we can get to 100 catches with only one hand. I remember it like it was yesterday. Now, y'all know who this is writing? Hey Dad, how was your day? Ready for practice? I'm glad you're my coach. You coached everything. Hey Dad, I can't believe you took your hat off and put it on Derek's mom's head when she complained about Derek not playing enough. For a second, I thought you were really quitting. How did you know that she didn't really want to coach? That was a classic, the best little league coaching move ever. She didn't say another word all season. Hey Dad, thanks for not getting mad when I broke your glasses wrestling. I didn't mean to, and you knew that. I was just going hard. Probably one of the better lessons you taught me. You sometimes break things going hard, but you should always go hard. Hey Dad, that was awesome. I can't believe you came out of the stands in your cast to coach us. I can't believe we came back from 4 runs down in the last inning to win. You're the best coach ever. I can't remember not being there physically, you not being there physically or spiritually, but coming down to motivate a bunch of little leaguers and willing us to win was epic. Hey Dad, can you believe we won the state championship? And thanks for driving the van to Arkansas. Man, that's a long way from South Carolina, but that was one heck of a week. Hey Dad, I can't believe we lost again. We should be better than that. Thanks for listening to me complain. And thanks for coming to watch every game, no matter what the weather, no matter where we play. Heck, you're at most of our practices too. And I'd go to practice in football and that, but I'd sit way up on a hill, way off. Nobody even knew I was there but Scott. Hey Dad, thanks for supporting me going to Wofford to play baseball instead of Clemson. I know it's a ton of money. Thanks for not making me feel guilty. And in parentheses he put, and you're going to laugh, $7,000 a year seemed like a lot of money in the world back then. Hey Dad, I'm glad you and Mom came to Florida for spring break. You guys didn't really have to make the trip. I'm just riding the bench. But it's great to have a supportive father pepping me up after each game. 1 week, 12 games, and I didn't play in a single one of them. But you cheered me as if I were a star. That meant more to me than when you watched me start and make all conference for the next 3 years. I think you know what I mean. Hey Dad, thought you wouldn't be able to come to the game today. I looked up in the second inning and there you were on the hill. Are you taking your vacations a half a day at a time? Every time you said you couldn't make it, I'd look up, and there you were, and still are, Superman to me. Hey, Dad, thanks for helping me move into my first apartment after college. I'm excited and a little nervous. All the advice you've given me helps a lot. I'm going to be just fine. Hey, Dad, thanks for being a great father-in-law as well as a great dad. She's an amazing woman, isn't she? Yes, she is. Hey, Dad, you're going to be just as good a grandfather as you are a dad. I'm almost to the end. Hey, Dad, thanks for coming down. I know I said I didn't need you, but I'm a basket case, and I don't want to worry Teresa any more than she already is. I don't know what I'd do without you and Mom. That shooting was surreal. I really needed you and Mom then, and you know that even now. And this refers to when Scott was with GMAC. He was in the Jacksonville office, and a deranged person come in, and there was an office about 60 or 70 people, and he walked in the lobby, he killed a customer, and he started through the office shooting and killing people. Scott was there. He survived on instinct and courage and a lot of luck. But that's what he's referring to. Hey, Dad, ready to go to the game. I can't think I've ever had a better week with you. Golf in the morning, college at World Series in the afternoon, then dinner, wake up, do it all over again. One of the best sports weeks of my entire life. That was fun, huh? Hey, Dad, thanks for coming to visit us in Germany. You come to visit us every place we've ever lived. Hey, Dad, thanks for supporting me resigning. If I hadn't been raised to believe in myself, I would have never had the courage to do that. Hey, Dad, every time we talk about my decision to walk away from a successful business career to follow my passion and join Wofford, you find another way to tell me it was the greatest move in the world. If I could work at McDonald's, you'd make me feel like President of the United States. Hey, Dad. Thanks for everything. I love you. That's success. Thank you. But I want to do one other thing. I had the opportunity real quick, and I know this is running over. And if anybody's tired, let me know. But I come bearing a few gifts. In February of 2013, my daughter, who works for Hubble Power Systems, had an international meeting at Kiowa Island. And it was engineers from all over the world and everything else. And at that time she invited us, because Helen and I were in the town, so would you like to come see some of the events? And we did. They had a motivational speaker there. And I am telling you, I've heard many of these people over my entire life. This is the greatest motivational speaker I've ever heard in my life. His name is Curtis Zimmerman. And he is outstanding. And I got to talk to him after the program and everything, and learned a little bit about him. But he impressed me. He gave me a book, and he autographed it, which I I've read this book many, many times. It's not a 1-2 step to success. It's none of this. The premise is that you are the star of your life. You're the director. You're the one that causes everything to happen in your life. And he tells you how you do it. Okay? You write the script. You do everything. And what I wanted to do, I called Teresa and I said, can you get me a couple of autographed books? Because I want to give them away to the kids. And she said, well, I'll call him and see. So she called me back and said, he's shipping you some books today. I have 2 of these books to give away. I also have 2 of these books. He wrote quite a few books, but these are 2 great ones. Here's one, Keys to Success in College and Life. I am so passionate about this guy. If you don't win a book today, ask the person who won it if they'll let you read it. And if they won't let you read it, tell them they didn't listen today. Okay? But if you go buy it, I think it's about $20. But it will, I will guarantee you, you people are just seniors are getting ready to go out or just looking for a job. You read this before you go to your next interview. It's not hard reading. So what I want to do, and then we'll get on, I have all your names in a group here, and I want, Jennifer, would you come draw these names out? We're going to give these two away. You can read them out.
Hayden?
All right, Hayden, you bet. Another one?
Cole?
Wasn't a lost day, was it?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you noticed, I had two envelopes, and there's only one reason. I wanted the people who are close to graduation getting these books. I wanted those that are not that close to get those books because they'll help you the most. Guy leaving today, he doesn't need to read this about college. He's done, okay? So these two books are for, and they're autographed by Curtis. Good luck.
Jace?
Jace?
Thank you so much.
Use it and share it.
I will.
Seriously,
Thank
it
you.
really is.
Sam?
All right, Sam.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. I have one more. This was given to me by Curtis, and I've highlighted a few things in here. But here sums up the entire thing of the book. The life you live and the life you want to live are separated by only one thing: you. And when you read the book, you'll know what he says. With that, I want to give this to Scott. And I hope you'll put it in the library. Maybe he'll let you look at it. But it is, I just can't emphasize how great this book is. If you ever get a chance to see this guy, the Air Force has him all the time to speak. University of Florida, he spoke to over 200,000 students at the University of Florida. He's in demand all over the world. He is the most dynamic, energetic, entertaining guy you will ever meet, and he has a great lesson. Thank you very much.
We get time for a couple of questions. If you have any questions.
Don't make them too hard.
No math questions. Actually, if you want math questions, he's really good at math. But he grew up in the day, no calculator, no computers or anything. And I was always amazed as we'd go through things. And we'd be throwing numbers out about this cost this with X% sales tax. But if you get a discount, you have that. And you know about any kind of numbers, you go $487.26. And it's like Rain Man sometimes. And any questions before we break up? A couple of questions?
What's the biggest, I guess, change you see from your generation to ours?
Oh my goodness, we don't have enough time. No, the biggest change is that I think the way I grew up, as he said, when I went to work, we had no calculators, no computers, no nothing. We didn't have everything was done by hand, okay? So we had, talking about math and all of this thing, we had to learn math. Today, if you go in a store and the cashier, the cashier, the machine breaks down, they can't give you change, right? So I think we had to think more than you guys did, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. But if you don't know the answer, or if you need something, you just ask Suri. She'll tell you all about it. You don't have to think about it. One way was the training we had. I had a guy that supervised me early on, and his desk was behind mine, and I'd be working on something, and I'd say, Norman, I'd say, what do I do with this? And he always said, did you look it up first? And I said, no. And I always thought, well, he said that because he didn't know the answer. But he made me go and look and find. And when I had to go look to find the answer, I learned it and a lot of things surrounding it. So I think the biggest thing is the advantages you have of computers and all of these things and everything yours. And I tell you what, I think it's better now that I look at y'all. This thing that you guys have is going to grow in leaps and bounds. And I'm old school. She asked me when I came in, did I have any visuals or have any projections or anything that? And I said, no, I don't have anything but me. And I became her #1 fan because you didn't have to set up anything. But I just think just all of that has changed. Also, I think we were I'm trying to put this in a way that I think we were more grounded. Does that make sense? We didn't have all of these things to get in our way. We didn't have video games. We didn't have all of these things. We didn't have that. You know, my fun was get on a bicycle, ride a block, and go play ball with no organization and these things. And it doesn't work that way. But listen, there was a greater generation, World War II, and here's my opinion. Y'all are going to be the next greater generation. You really are. I always told Scott, when I looked at the news and get kind of depressed of what's going on in the world, I love to get in the car and come to Wofford. Because when I get down here and see people like you, I know everything's going to be all right. I really do, and I mean that.
Any other questions?
Yes.
I know family is really important to you. I can really tell that from Scott and just his life, his family. What was one thing that you would do, weekly, monthly, I'm not sure, that would help you not get lost in your career? What was one thing that you would do to, I guess, put your family before your career? Or a few things.
No, that's a great question.
Could you repeat it so everybody can hear it? Just repeat the question.
What would I do in my career? He could tell we were a good family, or based on the family and everything. What did I do monthly, weekly, or yearly, or whatever, to put my family before my career? Is that correct? Let me tell you something. My family was always the most important thing in the world to me. My career moves and all of these things were made easy by a lady sitting back there who has been my wife for 51 years. And let me tell you how it was easy. When you get promoted and you transfer to another city, I'd pick up, go and report for duty and start to work. Who was left behind? Helen was left behind. Take care of the move, take care of the movers, take care of selling the house. But here's what she did, and I'm going to tell you, if you get in this world and you start transferring, you have kids. Whenever we moved, before we told Scott and his sister, she would research everything about the new city we were going to and find everything fun that a kid would like. And she would sit down with them, because sometimes I wasn't there, and she said, look, we are moving. What kids, when you tell them moving, they just get all upset. But she said, we're moving to, let's say, Pensacola, Florida. And guys, guess what's down there that you can do? She had them so excited, they couldn't wait for the movers to come and get us out. So those were important things. But here's what I did when I got to Greenville, South Carolina. Scott and Teresa asked me, Dad, we would like to start and finish the same high school. And would you do that for us? And I made a promise to them that if I had the opportunity, no matter where it was, that I would do that. I had an opportunity to go to the executive office in New York, and I didn't go. And I didn't go because of them. I had too many friends that transferred and all of that and put the career ahead of everything, and their family suffered for it. And I wasn't going to do that. Because in those days, GM would say, well, if you don't transfer, you might be stuck there forever. You know what I told him? This is the greatest town I ever lived in. I don't care, okay? But family meant a lot. I reinforced it every day. Everything that I did, I included my family. I never took a promotion without talking to them first. Never. If they were against it, I wouldn't go. Now, that may sound silly, but it worked for me, okay? Because I had their support. But it's a good question. Let me tell you, family comes first. Without your family, you can't do it all. You really can't. Anybody else? Let me ask you a question. Did you learn anything today? Please, that's what I want to know. Because if you didn't, then I failed. Maybe I failed. No? Did you learn anything? Josh, what did you learn?
You said something between management and leadership. Is management doing things right? And leadership is doing the right thing.
It's real hard sometimes in the world to do the right thing. It's easier sometimes not to do it. Don't ever fall to that. If you do the right thing, I'll guarantee it's going to pay off for you. It definitely will.
I think we had talked about feeling entitled and how this generation sometimes feels a little too entitled. And when you're talking about getting those promotions or moving up, think of it as moving around instead of moving up. And think about working with people people instead of working for them or working with people. I think that's a great perspective.
I will tell you, it'll work for you. A lot of things have changed in the business world, the way you do it, computers. The basics of business have never changed, and they never will. If you stick to the basics, and then you can add all of these other things to it, which will help you. But the basic of business has never changed. And it's really fairly simple, okay? But I can tell you, if you do the right thing. Mark Twain said something. Mark Twain said, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. That's pretty powerful. Because if you lie, the next time you tell it, you got to remember what you told, and then you got to, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. Okay? That's it, Scott, if you got anything. Thank you.
We'll take a couple of minutes in between going here, and he's going to lunch with a couple of students and not me. I will say the reason he asked you about success up front, it came full circle and he said, what's your idea of success? Because he had to know his idea of success before he could start turning down jobs and moving and not moving to other places. And that's a big, big deal. I will say that he turned down jobs. I came to Wofford College 2 months after I got here. He goes, we're moving, because I was the last one to come out. So he held true to that, and then he moved on and went to Charleston eventually. And you can see why I'm who I am today. If you see him both physically, we're about the same size, and a lot of his philosophies out of his mouth into my mouth and out of my mouth, so into my ears and out of my mouth. So thanks for your attention. The ones that are going to lunch, just kind of hang around for a second, and Jennifer will let you know where. And did you decide where? Renato's. So for the 6 that are going there, the new place downtown, right?
Right.
So they just opened up from one building to another. Thanks. And then after lunch, we were back at,
Let's say 1:30
1:30.
in the classroom, and we'll do cover letters and career search strategy. And then since we didn't do presentation basics and framing, Scott will do that whenever we get done with the career search strategy and the cover letter. All right.
Thank you a lot. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.